Hi guys, it's Gareth again. Another little update on the Space Guardians project development. Um so we've been working on the enemy entities and the weapon entities. These are essentially templates that we can use that we can give out to our games designers in the future. And the aim of these templates is basically to allow the game's designers to actually create weapons and create enemy entities without needing to access the source code of the project. It's really handy because I can essentially give people a set of tools and they can create new characters and new weapons, send them off to me to be implemented into the game, and it's a very seamless process. I'm going to show you a little example of that now. So in the project manager here, you can see I can just create a new Space Guardians item. We'll start with a weapon. And on the right hand side here, you'll see that I can basically give these a set of parameters. Now, a weapon is going to come with a unique identifier, and obviously we'll give it a name. This is going to be super weapon. The description is it's completely super, and we can see here that we can assign an image, which is going to be the image that's represented in the store or its icon. We can also set a clip, a sound clip, what it's going to sound like when it fires each round. So if this is a laser, it might have a zap. If it's a rocket, it might have some kind of whoosh. And then we have the ID of the projectile that it fires as well. That means we can track exactly what projectiles to spawn at the time of firing the weapon. And also attached to the projectile is the color that we want to flash. So, for example, if this is an acid weapon and we want it to glow green when it hits when it hits anything, then we can set that color here. Below you have some pretty we got a couple of categories here. So we can choose here for what type of weapon it is. So you've got our range of weapons: autocannon, blasters, flat cannon, lasers, micro missiles. The rest you can read there. And we can also decide what type of ammo it takes, and or even just what attribute it has. So kinetic being things like rail guns, energy being blasters, lasers, and explosive being rockets and torpedoes, as an example. The damage type is here's all our elements. So this is where our elemental affinity matrix comes in. So we can set these rounds to be of fire type, and they'll have fire attributes attached to them. Or we can just set them to be neutral. We have all of our types here: void, dark, light, acid, storm, water, earth, fire, and neutral. And the minimum damage, so we're going to say this round's going to do, let's say, 50 damage. And the maximum damage that's going to be able to do is, I don't know, let's say 80. And the damage modifier, right now, that's just going to be 1 for 100%. But let's say you get a power up, we can change that to 1.2. And then that will give you an extra 20% damage on the actual projectile. And that's per projectile, per bullet. Crit chance, so we can set the crit chance to whatever we like. So let's say it's got an 8.8% chance to crit. Crit modifier, we're going to say it's going to do 2.4%, so 240% damage if it crits. The bullet velocity, so how far it moves, or how fast it moves essentially. So if we say it moves 30 units per second, that's what it'll do. The projectile range, like how long it's going to last before it dies, and its projectile time to live. So if it's moving slowly, maybe we might just want it to explode after 2 seconds, and we can do that here. And the firing patterns, we've got a couple of different types here. We've got beam weapons, we have burst weapons, and we also have single shot. And you can see as I move them, we've got a couple of different dynamic fields which give us different parameters based on what type of weapon it is. So in this case, let's say we're creating a beam weapon. There's only going to be we'll do double beams. So we've got double beams here. The fire rate is it's going to fire essentially it's going to do damage ticks every half of a second. And the reload time, we're going to have a 3-second reload on that. The charge time, we're going to have a 1.5 second build up, and then it'll fire continuously for oh, it doesn't actually say that. I actually need to put that in. There we go. So basically, we're going to have, with it being a beam weapon, I need to add a parameter which will tell us how long it fires for before it depletes and it needs to go into reload. I haven't actually added that, so I need to do that. And on here, you can see destroy and impact. This just basically allows us to fire through things and hit multiple enemies, or we can, as soon as it hits something, it will essentially terminate the beam and it'll just basically stay on that target. It can't like fire through something. And here we go. So we're going to say what level is the gun. Now, all of the guns, the weapons come with, you can level them up to level 100. All of the levels start on 0, and experience, of course, is on 0. We use these attributes simply just to track the progress of the weapon, and there's also certain bonuses given to each weapon as it develops. Plus, there's extra little bonuses you get when you hit certain tiers. Tiers are indicated by levels. Every 20 levels, you hit a new tier. So, tier 0 is 0 to 20. 21 to 40 is tier 1. 41 to 60 is tier 2. 61 to 80 is tier 3. And finally, 81 to 100 is tier 4. And as you go through them tiers, you actually unlock the ability to modify your weapon, which is coming a little later. We can also determine if it's an NFT, if it's crafted, and if it's tradable. So here we go. We're just going to say it's crafted and it's tradable. It's not an NFT. And we're just going to give weapon ID of, I don't know, 1, 2, 3. Projectile ID of 4. Doesn't really matter. We haven't set any projectiles yet, but we've set them. So now what we have here is an actual template of a weapon, and this can be renamed here. So we can just call this Gareth's super weapon. And now, as a games designer, if I was one of the design team, I could essentially send off Gareth's super weapon in this format here, and I could send that off to myself and say, I've got a new weapon. It's a beam weapon. It fires twice. It does 50 damage per second at a base level, and its max damage is 80. And obviously, upon approval, we will put that into the game, and it's as simple as just dragging it into the files and recompiling the exe. So that's it. Yeah, that's a look at the weapon template. Now the enemy runs very similar, and if we go to the new weapon new enemy there, we can essentially select a model, 3D model that represents the enemy. The avatar, which is going to be any kind of pop-ups or icons that show in the UI. This would be the avatar. The level. So obviously our levels go from level 0 essentially, but we'll see a level 1 to level 100. And in here we have health, shield, damage, and experience. Now the good thing about this system is I've built it to be to use curves as a progression system. So instead of going through a table of values from level 1 to 100 or whatever, you can just set a curve, and the curve will calculate values based on the current level of the entity. So at level 1, for example, the base HP might be 100, and we'll say, but it level 50, we'll say it's going to have I don't know, 75,000 HP at level 50. It's a lot of XP, but let's say 7,500. It's a bit more reasonable. And we'll say the start at which we want to modify the level. So for the first, say, 3 levels, we're going to allow it to stay at 100 HP. But after level 3, we're going to want to see an increase. So the modified level is going to begin at level 4, and we want to stop it at level 50. So what that will now do is, if we do linear increments, which means it'll be an equal amount of HP that increases through the levels, we can set linear increments, and then we can just quickly click update. That will calculate a curve for us now. And if we go into the curve, you can see that it basically starts. Time is the level at which it starts, and value represents 100% of the base value. And as we go up to the top here, you'll see that at level 50, which is time, and the value is now 75%, or 750%, sorry, because it's 75 times the value of the base, which it's maths, but if you look at it 100, if we made that 1, took the zeros off, and we made that 75, you would see it's 75 times 1, and that's how it's calculated. So now that enemy will dynamically increase in value as it gets past level 4. So if we look at the modified HP here, you can see if I move to level 2, it doesn't change. Level 3, it doesn't change. Level 4, it doesn't change. But as I hit level 5, it goes to 261. Level 6 is 422. And we can just move through it slightly as we go towards level 50. And as we get to level 50, 48, 49, 7339. At level 50, we hit the maximum HP of 7500. And now everything above that, it remains just at 7500. This is really important because it allows us to classify our different enemies. We have obviously trash mobs, we have minions, we have mini bosses, we have bosses, faction bosses, world bosses, and each of them need to have a different structure. And now we don't want a trash mob or a normal minion being able to hit like mini boss status and having 2 million, or God forbid 5 million or 2 billion HP at level 100. So this way we can basically say this is just a trash mob. We don't really want to give it any more than 7500 HP at any point in the game. And at the maximum level we're going to allow it to continue gaining HP, it will cap at level 50. And then you can do the same with the shields. Again, it's the same format. You just add, we'll start with one base shield. Well, max shield's going to be 5000. We're going to start the shield a little later. So we'll say at level 20, you're going to get more shields. And at level, we'll say level 50 as well, it's going to cap out at 5000 shields. We're going to do linear increments again, and we can update that. And as you can see, the values are set. We can move the slider, and you'll see as we get past 20, it will begin to increase on the modified shield value here. And that's how we do that. Damage is the same process. The damage curve, it's not set, 1 second. Base damage, we're going to say he does a basic damage of 10. The maximum damage this unit's going to be able to do is 500 damage. Again, he's going to cap out at 50 because that's going to be his cap. And we're going to see his damage starts from level 1. This time we're not going to do it linear. We're going to make it a bit more curvy. So it's going to have this style curve. And what that does is it allows it at the beginning, it will not increase in damage too fast. But as it gets to about level 16 here, level 16, it will start to increase a bit more linear. And as it gets towards level 42, 43, it'll start to curve off and slow down its damage gain up until level 50, where it'll remain at 500 damage. And we can see that reflected here. So if we start level 1, level 3, level 2 is 11, level 3 is 12, level 4 is 15. And as you can see, as we get to level 16, 17, 133, but next, 19 is 160, 20 is 174, and so on and so forth. And experience, we have a similar thing as well. And base experience, this is the minimum that experience value that this can have. So we could say at level 1 it's only worth 3 experience, okay? But at maybe it's level 50, it's worth 175 experience. Now we want to start the modified values from 1 to 50 again, and after that it will remain at 175. Now, experience typically has a fall off, so when you're a level 100 against a level 50, you shouldn't be getting any experience. Now that isn't managed by the enemy script. It's actually managed by the game logic script, which is a different system. But this basically just outlines the minimum and the maximum value of this unit. And with that, guys, that literally that explains our new tools for our games designers to be able to create a new enemy and create a new weapon. Send off scriptable templates essentially to us, and we can look at them. We can check to make sure that they're not game breaking and that they do kind of follow a certain structure. And then if they're approved, we can put them into the game And that means me as a developer, I don't have to sit there and design all of these creatures. I don't need to sit there and design their strengths, their weaknesses. And with this will come later, we'll be adding things like attacks, so like area of effect attacks, slash attacks. The, one of they might have different AI patterns, such as chase and explode, or stand, detect and then send minions in a certain direction. So we can also apply to these models a rule set of AI functions, so that as they get at the start, they might not have any function. The only function might be look at and shoot when you get within 15 meters. But later on at level 10, we might give them the ability to send out another minion. So they might be able to spawn a mini minion which chases like a homing missile and explodes upon impact after or within 3 seconds. Um, and we can add these to this template so that you've got a fully developed minion or mini boss or world boss, and all I have to do is simply vet it and then apply it to the game, patch it, and there you go, it's done. So it gives our games designer something to play with. Right, that was long winded. I'm sorry to take your time. There's nothing flashy to show you. It's pretty much all tools today. But that is the weapons and the. Oh, sorry, let me see. Where was it? It was the weapons and the enemy scriptable object systems. I hope to give you an actual visual representation of what I've just explained in the coming weeks or months. But right now, of course, we're still focusing on the systems in the back end and all of the mathematics involved. So, whilst we do that, there's nothing flashy to show you. But I do appreciate you guys sticking with me. I do appreciate your patience. And I'll get you an update in the next couple of days, which will show you something different. Until then, guys, thanks very much. I've been Gareth, and I'll catch you in the next update. Adios.